Welcome everybody. We're doing the Site Progress mobile tutorial for those people who recently bought the system and want to understand all about it. So this is a sort of in-depth technical discussion rather than a sort of sales pitch. And this is a substitute for any sort of manual. There is a help system in the software on both the phone and the computer side. But here we go. So I just want to talk you through the process to remind you of what it's about. So we're going to publish data from an Asta Powerproject plan, and we're going to push it to the cloud. So you do need to be connected to the internet whilst that part of it is going on, and you do need to have Asta Powerproject. Once you've taken information out of your project, there's lots of setup involved in that, which we're going to look at. Then someone else, could be you, but probably someone else, a site manager, somewhere remote with a mobile device, or they could be doing it on a web page, would access that information, download it to their mobile device, walk around the site, update it, and when they finished updating it at the end of the week probably, then they would, after adding progress values, updating on the go, they don't need any Wi-Fi or mobile signal for that once they've downloaded it, and when they finished they would submit it back to the cloud when they have a signal. So then it's sitting in the cloud, and the person who originated that upload would then download that, check it, integrate the changes into Powerproject, and then you would follow that cycle round again. So it's a sort of process rather than a one-off instance, and it's a substitute, an extension of just adding progress into the project file itself in Powerproject. So here we go. So we're going to do the first bit. So we're going to talk about having a project plan in Powerproject and then uploading it and all the things that you need to do to it for that. So here's Asta Powerproject, and this is version 14.03. So this is the latest version. And we're concentrating on this version today because it's got a different way of interacting with the Site Progress Manager application itself. So on the File menu, what's called the Backstage, there is an option called Site Progress Mobile. So when you buy the software, the only thing we're going to send you is an email with this sort of information contained in it. So it's going to have a company name, company ID number, the first user, the sort of admin user, and a password for that person. So that person would use that information and they would log in. So they would go to the login part of this screen and they would put those details, although mine are slightly different, into the system, and you can tick this so that it remembers you for next time. And then you've got to be on the internet at this moment, and if you're not, it won't happen. But when that does happen, then it's going to tell you along the top what the total number of licenses are that you've bought, how many are currently available, and when it's due to end, because it's an annual subscription. And then there are things to do here about making users and settings and having items already in this list. So I'm going to remove these because I want to add them a bit later on. So I think the first thing to do is to have a look at a project and how we prepare an existing project. So we're going to open one that we've been working on this week. We've worked on it a few weeks ago and we've added progress once, and now we've got site progress and we want to make it easier. So it's already got some progress up to that green line, and if I go to the project tab, then there's a few extra buttons here that you didn't have before. And so for the first time that you open this project, you need to click on the enable update button, and that's going to create some library items and extra user fields. So you can see how that works in a minute. And so what that's done, it's created a list here of, as an activity code library of the two users, and they are created in the configuration section under users. So there's one person here when you come to it, then you add another person, and these are the people out in the field who are going to be updating it, or they might be your colleagues in another office who are also going to be using Powerproject and be publishing information to the cloud. So I've got a colleague, Jason. I don't really have to worry about his email. I do have to set up a password for him, and we can generate one, or I can just set one that I can send him. So having and there's certain roles that he can have. He can be an administrator like me, and he can make other users. He can be a publisher, so he can send information out from Powerproject, but he can't make other users, or he's just someone on the other end updating it. And so I can copy those details to the clipboard, and then I can email them to him so he knows what to put in to his end of it when he gets to log in. So that's going to be the details he needs to log in on his remote system, and we'll look at that a little bit more. And also we can give him a color, as you'll see. That can be relevant very shortly. So we make a list of users, those people who are going to use Aster Site Progress Mobile. Either they're going to publish information, or they're going to be creating other users, or they're going to be at the other end filling that information in. So Jason hasn't made our library, so we need to just do the update side of it, and that will be populated. So then we need to say which of our users can update this particular project, and that's this chart assignment section here. So I've got my list of users, and I can drag a user from the left hand side and drop them on the right hand side. So I can say apply them to a summary level activity, apply to all descendants. Everything in one of these summary bars will be sent to Richard Ormond, which is me for today. But I've got a colleague, Ben, and he's going to do the services later on. And so that's going to go orange. So only the orange tasks will go to Ben. I won't see them. I'll only get the things that are highlighted in green. So we can see that in a column. There's a few extra fields that we should put a couple of extra columns in here now, where we're going to add a code which is going to be a task code for the user. So that's going to say which user we're going to have. So if you've got a code assigned to a summary level activity and everything's blank, everything in it will be done by that person on the parent. But I can now in 1403 say, well, actually temporary roads, Ben's going to be the one giving me feedback on that. So you can be much more specific about which person is going to update which bit, right down to an individual task, even within a summary work breakdown level. So that's one way of doing it. And there is another way of doing it as well now in 1403. If I go to configure and settings, we can also export using the resource allocation rather than user code. So there is an extra thing here where we're not going to worry about those codes, although they still have to exist. We're going to do it by the resources that have been allocated. So I'm not going to do that, but I want to show you how to do that. So if we go to the projects tab again, I've got a couple of resources, and if I look at the properties of those resources, I can see that on a resource now there's an extra field which I can say which is the site progress user associated with this resource. So foreman 1 is me, and foreman 2 is going to be, let's say, it's going to be Ben. So in that way, rather than doing the activity code assignment, we can just do the resource assignment, and that's mapped to another. So here's our resources column, which I'm going to unword wrap. So there's two ways of assigning which task gets sent to which person. And so you've got to do that to individual projects. The other thing you've got to do to individual projects is coming back in, there are going to be some notes, some comments that you can collect, and we're going to put those in a column, and we're going to put those in the notes column. So we do want to have in a table with probably no wrapping, although this can get long, we want to have a notes field. So that would let us see here what the comments were coming back from the field. So there are some from last week. So there was some bad weather on the 15th, and then some material delivery problems, etc. So, but also we can send photographs back later on. So we need to add a further column, which is a user field called attachments. And attachments is should be present, and I'll show you where to go if it's not present. So you'll be able to see the picture, not literally as a picture. You'll see a little bit later on as a hyperlink. You can click on it and see it. But if that column is not available, on the Projects tab, you go to the User Field Manager, and for a task, an individual task, you add a URL called attachments. When you close, it will close all open views and open them again. So that field of user field would be attachments. Okay, so that's what we need. Okay, so we've created users and we've associated them with different activities, so we know who's getting what. We can see the alternative for resources, but there's also another, and we've done everything we need to do in this particular project, but there's another mode which we need to talk about, which is when you've got multiple activities on one row of the plan, and typically this is done for housing projects. So typically in housing projects or apartments, each apartment or house goes through a number of stages which are defined in a library of your choosing, but also they have a single reference to what people call the plot number or the house number is. So this plot number 10 goes through these different stages. There's oversight, and then there's brickwork to DPC, and then there's block work, block beam, and then there's unit drainage. You can see the colors corresponding. So in that particular configuration, if we look at the settings again, there's a section here called tick sheet. So we need to nominate, we need to tell the system what the library is called, where the tasks are coming out to show the different operations. And we want to use their short name in the library, and any later ones will also complete earlier ones. And also for later on, when we add comments in our system, we can either type it or we can have a pick list, and you can create that pick list. So there might be some wind issues, there might be some subcontractor issues. There's many items you list, so people can pick them rather than having to type all the time, which is sometimes inconvenient with a small screen phone. So in this particular sense, we need to, if we are going to do that, we need to populate these settings, and then we'll be in a position to exchange that. But the other thing to realize is that on each of these items, this is a short name. This will be displayed at the head or for that particular condensed information, and it will appear in the 4th place. So this is how we set the order of which, if you like, columns in a spreadsheet will be displayed. So we've got those activities already done. We can take this individual task now and we could export it and choose which users and what the date is. But before that, I want to talk a bit more about other things, and also how we can do a number of projects in one time, because you don't want to do each one in turn. So if I close this project, I haven't got any projects open, but if I go back to the Site Progress Mobile, that's added the one that I was editing. But if I can also click here to add a project, and I can have a number of projects in a list. So here I've got a number of projects that I'm going to export. I can choose to export them but all. I can choose to import them all. And this displaying jobs drop down lets me access the information to see what's been exported, who's in use, what's been done. And so for the administrator, this panel is very useful. You can sort by clicking on the header, and you can copy everything and paste it into some sort of Word, for example, to get or Excel to get a report. So, but before we go through the actual process, then there's I just want to have a discussion about what it is that we're going to extract. So as we've said, we're going to extract information, but we're not going to extract everything. We're not going to extract things that are already 100% complete. So these activities will not be extracted and will not be in a list of things to do. And we want to set a and we're going to set a future date that is going to be the future progress period that I want people to report on. So at the end of this mustard stripe, I'm going to set that date as being the date when I'm going to export information. So if I go to my configure tab, when I come to export it, I'm going to say use the 30th of July as the date, the future date when I want progress reported back to me. So so this activity will be in it. This activity will be in it because it's cuts through that. This will be in it, that will be in it, but these will not be in it. So I will exclude all things not in my window, but I need to keep that end date because that's going to calculate the planned percent complete that you're going to expect to have done on that particular operation. So we also can set a future, a further stripe, if you like, it's a blue stripe. I can set a future period ahead of that progress date, which will also capture as many tasks as you want. So you can make that as wide as you want, but the idea being that you try to give people a focused list of things that they're most likely to have done. So you might want to make that 3 or 4 weeks, but you don't want to inundate people with information. So where you set that is in the configuration again under settings, and you set here in calendar days how far ahead that blue stripe should be. So we've come to that point there where we've got the that information set up, and if I've got a list of things to do, then I need to close any projects that are in that list so that I can export them. So I'm at the end of that first process of coming here. It's probably a Tuesday. I've processed last week's progress. I've reviewed it. I've discussed it with my manager, and we're ready to go another one. So I'm going to export all of these. I'm going to choose the 30th because that's 2 weeks time, and we're going to click on the export button. And I've got to be connected to the internet at this point. So now all of that information has been successfully exported. Okay, so now we're at the stage where we were talking about before, where we've successfully done that, and all of the settings that we might have had to do that. Although probably I should go back to Powerproject and just talk about the other settings here. And I should probably do it again because at the moment I've not ticked some of these boxes. So I do want to display the remaining duration on tasks that are not already complete. So there's an extra option here to highlight. I'm also going to highlight this option, which some people don't want to, and that's allow that remaining duration to be edited. So if I've should have done 50% and I've only done and I have done 50%, maybe it's not going to take me 5 days to finish. It's going to take me another 6 days to finish. And if that's ticked, that will allow me to do that. So, and also I'm making a decision whether I should use a duration percent complete or an overall percent. And we always recommend the overall percent because you can change the remaining duration. It doesn't affect the duration, etc. And there's a color coding system that you can use. You don't have to give people clues to the status of the activities that you're presenting to them, but I like to do that. So I'm going to use information from the live project. So if we should have done it by the date I'm talking about, it's going to go red. If we should be working on it at the date that I'm saying. In this case, the 30th of July is going to be that color of green. And if it's going to be this color of sort of greeny blue, if it's ahead of my the end of the period that I'm talking about. So these extra components I should have set before I exported. So I'm going to, so it's not a disaster. That's absolutely fine. I can export again, but it will warn me that I'm going to override things that were there previously. So I've now exported that information, and we're ready to talk about the next stage. And that next stage is somebody remotely, either with a remote device, such as a mobile phone or tablet, and this is my Android device, but it could also be a web page. So you have got the choice of what to do at that stage. So I'm going to also at this stage, I'm just going to open that project again that we're going to look at, so we can also understand what it is that we're looking at when we see that on screen. So I'm going to go back now to my mobile device, and I've already got the icon. So you can go to the Play Store in Android, the App Store for iPhones and tablets, and the Windows Phone Store to get. And if you search for Site Progress, you'll find this icon. You install it. There's no cost to that, and it's the buying of that annual rental of this. When you buy this, you've exchanged some money with us to get to that stage. So that's already paid for. I remember I've already sent this to the guy remotely. So the guy remotely, after they've installed the app, the very first time they use it, you're asked to put in that information. So you could lose your phone, and you could just download it and put it in another phone. So if you remember, and I've exported it from me, so I need to put myself in here. But it's whoever you sent this information to. I can't even spell my own name today. I'm new to Android, so the finer arts of doing it are still being developed. So when I log in, if there's anything waiting for me in the cloud, it's going to be presented there. So you can see that I've got two projects that are waiting for me, and Fallen Meadows is the one that I've got open on screen. So I just tap on that, and I get to see all the summary bars that have got some activity within it that is going to need attention. So there's two there. And if I look at site establishment, then we're looking at all of the tasks here in this drop-down list. These are all of the tasks that correspond to the tasks on the left over here that are going to fall in my mustard stripe or my blue stripe. So if it ends in the mustard stripe, it's going to have a red cross. So we should have done it. If it is split by the if it's split by that activity, then we would be doing it in the blue period, and if it's split by the blue period sticking outside of that, then it's something that would have the tick mark and the other color. So we choose an individual task, and this is giving us some information already about what we've said before. So we said that it's planned to be 100% complete. So we should have finished it because it's in the mustard stripe. Last time you told me it was only 50% complete. So I want you to, down here, tell me either what's finished or what the percentage is now and what the remaining duration might be. So we've got these options to play with, and we can move the slider with in increments of 5%, and if that's not accurate enough, you can tap on the where the 75% is, and you could say, well, we've done 82.5 or any other figure, or it will only show you up to integers inside the circle. But that means that we've got 2.1 days remaining, but we're going to still need 3 days to finish it. So we could do that, or we could say, well, no, the whole thing's been finished, and we actually finished it, and so we should have done it on the 24th. Maybe we did it a day earlier. Maybe we finished it on the 21st. So we can record actuals. And as well as actuals, what we can do is we can keep notes. So here's that list of excuses that I typed in as a quick pick list. So I can say, well, we had a problem with wind, but it didn't really matter. Or in this case, I can click on other, and we can just type something. So we can type last week of work went very well. So and that's easier to do on a keyboard than it is to do on a pecking on a phone. So unless you've got a phone with a little microphone and you can talk to it, and it'll translate. But the other thing you can do is you can take a photograph. So if you tap on this icon here, as you'll see in a minute, it will lead to the camera on the phone. So if I tap on that icon, it leads to the camera. So if I've already taken some photographs, I can recover them from my photo gallery here, or I can click on this icon and to take a new photograph, and that's what I'm going to do now. So we're going to take a new photograph, and I'm going to take it of my screen so you can see that it's happening in real time, although that's a never-ending sequence of images that we've just caught by looking at ourselves more than once. And then we can say OK at the top, that we're going to accept that, or we're going to retry and take another photograph. And then we can go back to, we can take up to 10 photographs per task per session, and it tells me there that I've got 1 photograph attached. I can have 10 attached to each task each time I do it. And I've now done everything about this individual task. So now I can go on to the next task in the list and say, well, for reduced level, we should have done 85%. We've only done 75% maybe, and it's going to take us 4 days to finish that. And we've had a little problem with some subcontractors, and then we're going on to the next house. So it gets a little bit laborious at this stage. You just got to go through each task in turn and record it, but that's quite right. Well, we haven't done anything to trial pits. 2, we're trial analysis. Well, that's gone better than expected, because even though we should only be 50% complete, we have finished that, and we should have finished it on the 1st, but in fact we finished it on the 26th. So we've done a really good we haven't done that because we didn't start it till the 27th, so it only took us a day to do that. So we've been working on that, and we click on save, and that information is now safe on the phone. We could close the app, it'd still be there, but if we go up a level by clicking on the folder, we can go back to where we came from, and we can look at the substructure element, but all that's in there is the piling, and we haven't yet started that. So we've done everything we should have done. So it's Friday afternoon, we've done everything we should have done. How do I send it back to the center? I click on the 3 little dots here, though it is different in the Windows app and the iPhone app. There's a little cloud with an up arrow, and you click on submit, and you need internet connection at this time, and that's going to go back from this phone to the cloud at the center. So I've only got 1 project in my list at this time. But of course, if you remember, Ben was also involved in that project. He had a task to do. So I'm going to log in as Ben on the website here. And there it lists all the projects that Ben has been assigned. So if he clicks on that, we get it in a web page. You get more of a sort of tabular spreadsheet layout, and so we can again say by dragging this or by typing here now, you've got a bit more information. You can put actual start and finish dates in. You can put days remaining. You can put you can put notes in as we did before, and it's easier to type in that. And if you've got pictures downloaded, obviously you haven't got a camera, you can upload pictures. So we can save that. We might as well go straight to submit because there's only one thing to do. And so Ben's work is finished. He's updated. There's nothing left for him to do, and everything's gone on this phone in relation to this project for Fallen Meadows. But there's still another project I want to talk about, and that was the housing project, if you remember. And that's because there is this extra mode of operation called a tick sheet mode. So if I look at Wrexham Park, and the construction folder, there are a couple of tasks here that do not have a plot number associated with them. So the demolition and remediation are in this list because they do not have a plot number. So it's just like you've seen before, and that's what we call the turnaround document, the turnaround way of updating information. So that's where you do not have a plot number in that special user-defined field associated with this, and activity codes from the build stages library assigned. So we're going to say that both of those, both the demolition and the remediation, are both 100% complete. But I'll go to the tick sheet now, which is for those items that have got something in the plot number column and have got entries from the build stage library. And the headings here, so this is everything to do with plot number 10. So, and this is a short heading, so we got block beams. So we should have done block beams and we should have done drains. But if we had been doing first lift brickwork, we'd be just in that, we'd just be in this little process here. So if I perhaps can draw that on screen. So we're up to this point here, which is slightly into the first lift brickwork, and that's why it's got the green exclamation mark. So if I say, well, we've done drains, if I click on that, it's also done the block beam. So we can take both of those things at the same time. So that's what the auto tick means in the settings. And if I click on here, we can add notes to individual build stages. So we could say there was a bit of wind at that stage, and we could take a photograph on that individual build stage. And then we go on to the next plot. So this is in the order in which they're drawn ordered on screen. So in this particular case, we'd be ahead of ourselves if we were doing any drains. So we're up to that stage there, and maybe we've just started. We've done 25% of the drains, although some people don't progress a stage unless you've done 100% of it, but we can do that in Powerproject. So again, we're going to say for 32 and 35, we've done these two stages, and so it goes. But this is a lot easier than individual tasks and having loads of them. So this is a very familiar phase called the tick sheet phase of a project, which is organized in this way. So we're at this stage now where we've we've added the progress values, we've put notes and pictures, we've updated it and on the go, and when we've got a signal, we're going to submit it back to the cloud. And I've done that already with the previous project, and now I'm going to do it with this particular project. So we click on the submit button, and it's going to tell us that it's gone, and so there's nothing left on my device. So all it does is put a very small amount of information in the cloud. You download it to this device, you upload it when you finish. So now back in Powerproject, in Site Progress Mobile, it still remembers who we are. These are the projects, and you can see which ones are ready to be imported, which ones have been submitted. And if I right mouse click on an entry, I can set its status to be, I can delete it. I can say, oh, actually, I'm going to reset this to be exported, so you can re-enter it, and it would appear on your phone again or I can force it to be ready to be imported. So before I do import it, I want to look at the settings, because there's a few things here that have an impact on the import. One is, what do we do with progress periods? So we can either just have one progress period and move the line on. In this case, I'm creating a new period every time I import it. So that's going to be what site progress does. And I can also just let it do it, or I can have a preview and approve or reject, but I cannot edit the values in that, as you'll see in a minute. So so we're going to create a new progress period, and we're going to have an approval step before it comes into the system. So we are at this stage now in our wheel where we're just about to integrate the changes back into Powerproject and use Powerproject to review them. So we're going to take all of these. In fact, we're going to select all of those in one go. We're going to just confirm that we've got the same date there, and then we're going to click on import. That's going to bring everything back, including the photographs. So this is Wrexham Park, so we didn't do a huge amount here. Those two things were done. So I'm going to accept everything. I'm sure there was an accept all button. And you can see what the previous version percentage was, what the new one is, what actual start and finish have been set, days remain. You can see all that, but you can't change it. And then we've got one more to do there. And the project progress has been successfully imported. So now it's back in our project where it came from. And of course, the sensible thing would have been to make a baseline before we started, and then we could make a comparison to where we were before. So now we're back in the project. Look, so here now is the progress period that has been created. So we might want to call this week 3 and 4. We don't like the color, so we could change that. It's going to just assign what it thinks the next color should be. I might want it to be a rather brighter blue. So we can see how much was done in each portion and when it was done. And in our extra fields out here, look, we've got some comments that have come in. So the work went very well, and it's dated the 29th, which is the day that we made the comments. So the comments come in as notes. If there was a previous note there, it would have been appended to it. So we would keep a date stamp, the notes, another date stamp, the next notes, etc. And it's also created a hyperlink. So it's not put the photograph in there, it's stored the photograph, and it's stored the photograph in a place that you set in options file location. So this is the folder, and I recommend that you set this to a network drive so that people on different computers will still be able to access it. If you leave this as a C drive and I email you this project, you won't be able to have a look at those photographs. And if you alt click on that photograph, it loads it and takes you to it. And if there's more than one photograph on that task, it takes you to the folder where you can look at all of the photographs. So that's just to prove that it works in real time. So now it's a question of reviewing it. Maybe you don't agree with that. Maybe now having further discussion, we see the impact of that. We say we've talked them into doing it. Maybe there's another day still needed to do that, and we want to see the impact of that. And let's see what that means to the program. And maybe that's acceptable because in that excavation there was an issue that we were instructed to work around, and it's not our fault, and so that is an acceptable extension to the project. So you can see that process of working through where we accept it, we'd then save it at this point, and that would be, we would then re-export it and send it back to the cloud and go back round our circle. So that's the process which you go around, and they're the controls that you do to control it. So in Powerproject itself, everything is in the site progress mobile section. You need a login to get this far, and then settings you want to pay some attention to at the very beginning and set up this somewhat as I've done. I would recommend make sure you set a path that's on a network drive so that photographs can be held in a common place, and in this project, if copied to somebody else's computer, would still be able to find that and have a look at updating it on the website but certainly by far and away the most popular thing is by doing it on an Android device, Apple iOS device, iPhone, iPad of various types, and a Windows phone. But whilst it does work on a Windows phone, we're not going to develop the Windows phone side of things because Microsoft have stopped supporting it. So it works now, but we're not adding new features to it. And this version has got a couple of new features in it. So that ends the show. I'm going to stop the recording. And if you've got any issues, just call our help desk, quoting your serial number, and they can be reached on 01844 261 609. Thank you for your time.